All right, now let's talk about today's episode. I want to introduce you to today's guest as we talk about the connection between a healthy body and a healthy business, adrenal stress, and how that might be affecting your online business. Maja Miller is a seven-figure business owner who specializes in working with high-performing women to find the energy and feel the best they've ever felt in their bodies with easy-to-use systems, coaching, and tools. She runs the Inside Out Protocol, her 90-day transformation program for female entrepreneurs and innovators, which helps them find the energy they need to scale their business and accomplish their goals. So, Maya, super excited to have you on the show today.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited too.
So I gave a very quick introduction to who you are, but go on and share a little more details around your background. I know you were you have a master's degree, and then walk us through your journey as well with starting your business.
Yeah, well, first of all, I am my target market. So, I specialize in working with women that have a lot of stress in their lives, and it was a journey that I had to walk myself through, and that's why I feel so passionately about what I do right now. The short end of it is I've had acute, prolonged stress for like decades, and then there was a moment in my life where I was so sick that like my body completely shut down, and nursing myself back to back into health. I realized that this is not rare for entrepreneurs, that oftentimes we are burning the candle at both ends. We are literally turning ourselves inside out for our clients, for our teams. And whether you're an entrepreneur in your own business or an intrapreneur in somebody else's business, oftentimes it's the same thing. We're just giving to everybody else, and we get like table scraps. And you can sustain that type of that way of being for a period of time. But what I find is that entrepreneurs, once they get into their 30s and 40s, especially women, especially if you have children, which I do not have, but a lot of the women that I work with do, they're just running on fumes, and they just need a completely new way of looking at their bodies as like the number one tool in order to build their businesses. So what I always say is you got to feel like $1,000,000 to make $1,000,000. So that's a little bit about my journey and my background. But yeah, I was a Division I athlete. I was my MBA at 24 years old, I believe, did a super high stress corporate, Fortune 5 job. And that led to, and then I became an entrepreneur because I thought that would be like low stress. So that's a little bit, so I took all of that experience and created the Inside Out protocol for, I call them biz babes. So I know that the word babe can be a little, some people love it, some people hate it, but I'm a pretty casual person. So it's like a biz babe, somebody that's, that's doing stuff in life and is a mover and a shaker.
I love how you just decided that being an entrepreneur is way easier than working, in a corporate world. I don't know why. What gave you that idea? Like.
I mean, I think we have to be naive, because if we knew how difficult this is, we wouldn't do any of it. But I was working this like corporate job. I was traveling 70-80% of the time and was having all of these health issues. And as I started having all of these health issues, I thought, oh, maybe I need to switch become an entrepreneur in like the health and wellness space. And that had its own set of challenges, but here we are.
So you switched over to the health and wellness space as an entrepreneur, started your business. Did you jump right into helping women with adrenal stress, or were you doing something else? And then you realized that, oh my God, this is horrible. I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, no, I didn't jump right into working with adrenal dysfunction. I was working for AT&T Interactive in California, and really fell in love with Pilates while I was out there, and decided that I was done with California. I wanted to hit the do-over button. And I moved to Austin, Texas in 2012 to start my own group Pilates and cycling studio. So I launched Core 180 in 2013. and had multiple locations. We were kind of like, the Soul Cycle of Pilates is kind of how it was group Pilates classes. I designed my own Pilates reformer, did my own teacher training program, and I worked with high performing women. That was my clientele base. And I would say about 2, maybe 3 years in, 2 years in, 3 years in, something like that, I realized that no matter how much my clients worked out, many of them were still sick and they couldn't lose weight and they couldn't sleep at night. They had off the charts anxiety. They had off the charts insomnia. And I was looking at myself like a few years earlier. So I created the first version of my transformation program for my brick and mortar business. And then in 2000, I don't even know what year it is. Like, what year is it? Is it 2021? Oh my God. So in 2019, I decided to shut down all of my brick and mortar businesses and focus on bringing the program online. So that was kind of the evolution of it.
Mm-hmm. I think you've got an interesting perspective on entrepreneurship and health and wellness, because you, not just being an entrepreneur, you actually have a background in health and wellness and actually experiencing the effect of ignoring your mental health, physical health, and emotional health as you try to not just work in the corporate career and try to climb it, but just to start your own business and run it. So I gotta say, though, a lot of entrepreneurs don't focus enough or don't think of their health and wellness enough, right? And often it's because they're like, oh, I don't have the time. So they associate being healthy and mindset and working out with long workouts, or, oh my gosh, I gotta cook this healthy meal and that's gonna take a lot of time. So they often associate that. And so they're like, oh, I don't have time. So what would you say would be the easiest way for entrepreneurs to incorporate wellness or living healthier or reducing stress in their lives?
Well, I would say, first of all, if you don't make time for health in your life, your body will make time for you.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have found is that um, entrepreneurs are different than a lot of other kind of segments, and you need to reduce friction in your life, otherwise you're not going to be able to do something. So if I'm working with you one-on-one and I'm going to say, oh, you've got to do these hour-long workouts, and food prep is going to take 12 hours a week and it's going to be really expensive, and you have to take all these supplements. Humans are hardwired to do two things. One is to seek pleasure, and then the other is to avoid pain. So anytime that there's those pain points in any system that you have, we are hardwired as humans to avoid them. And so one of the things that what I created in my program are systems that give you time back so that you can refocus your energy and do some of that self-care stuff. So how do you create a system around food prep? With my system, with 2 hours a week and about $150, you can have all of your food done for the entire week. One of the first things that I do is a 15-minute breakfast hack. That is specifically, if you give me 15 minutes, I'll give you breakfast for the entire week, specially formulated for adrenal dysfunction. So I kind of specialize in creating these systems for entrepreneurs because we don't have a lot of time. We have a lot of people relying on us. We're juggling, 34 balls at once. So for me, it's not just what is your goal. I actually don't think that goals are that important. They have to exist, but I would say that more importantly, it's the system that you need to create in order to achieve that goal. So for me, like, food prep is the single most important thing that you can do. And I call it the hedgehog of like your hedgehog principle, your hedgehog effect. A hedgehog has like one defense mechanism, right? It's to curl up into a little ball. And so when, things are going nuts in your business, my hedgehog is food preparation.
I want to take a step back, and I realized we didn't even talk about this, and that's adrenal dysfunction. So for my listeners who are like, what is adrenal dysfunction? And do I even have it? Am I experiencing adrenal stress? What is this chronic stress disorder? Can you just kind of walk us through what it is and how do we know if we have it?
Yeah, well, I think before we can talk about adrenal dysfunction, we have to talk about stress.
Mm-hmm.
And there's three different kinds of stress. And I like to call them hidden stressors. These three types of stressors impact your hormone, your immune, your digestion, your detoxification, your energy production, and your nervous systems. And there's three different kinds of stress. So the first kind of stress is physical stress. And maybe while I'm talking about this, you can kind of be like, yes, I have this or I don't have this. Maybe tell me, you can kind of in your head tell me whether or not this applies to you. But the first stress is called physical stress. And so that's going to be like trauma or micro trauma to your body, maybe a car accident, repetitive injuries. What a lot of people don't know is intense and prolonged exercise can be considered physical stress. Repetitive injuries, muscle injuries, fractures, those kinds of things. And then this is a big one, chemical stress. So you've got anything from inflammatory foods to additives in foods, pesticides and GMOs, alcohol, caffeine, sugar, drugs, over-the-counter medicines, poor sleep, lack of exercise, and here's a big one, especially in the United States, is antibiotics. Those are all considered chemical stressors. And then this third category, I call them perceived stressors. And it's not that the things that in this category aren't stressful. It's that if you and I experienced the same thing, let's say we both lost our job, or maybe we, lost a job or lost a loved one or something like that. What I mean by perceived stress is that you're going to handle that stress in a different way that I will. So perceived stress is this other big category. So fear, worry, anxiety, sometimes excitement can be in this category. Lack of purpose, existential angst, negative perceptions, bad attitudes. So those are the three different kinds of stress. And what's important to understand is that your body has this flight or your nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system, and then your parasympathetic nervous system. One is rest and digest, and then the other one is fight or flight. And anytime you experience any of those stressors, and I listed off like a ton of stuff, right? Your nervous system, your fight or flight response turns on. And it's your adrenals. They're these two little lumps of tissue that sit on top of your kidneys. They're really small. They weigh about the size of a couple of paper clips, and they're about the size of a sugar cube. But man, they control hormone regulation, electrolyte balance, your fight or flight response, sleep and wake cycles, blood sugar regulation, and they turn on something that I call the adrenal fat switch. And so your adrenals, if you think about the way that stress used to be, you were a gazelle in the Sahara Desert, and there's a lion who's hungry, and you have to get away from that lion. And so your adrenals kick on. They produce cortisol, which is also known as the stress hormone. And cortisol is a catabolic hormone, which means it breaks down your body. So in the short term, it actually makes you feel good. It brings energy to your big muscle movers. You have more oxygen going, right? More oxygen going to your big muscle movers so that you can, run away. You can breathe more. Your pupils become, change. And it's what's happening in the short term is your body is saying like, wow, this is survival. Well, if you go into like the modern environment, there's all of these stressors, text messages, emails, all these modern things that we've never had to deal with before. So our system is constantly in a state of fight or flight. Our system is constantly being flooded with cortisol. And when the good part of this system is that it gets you through, short-term craziness. But what also happens is it prolongs any long-term function. So fertility, for example, your immune system goes down. There's all of these things that that your body kind of turns off. And so you're putting the brake on those long-term systems and putting the gas on these like short-term systems. Well, that's fine if occasionally a lion is chasing you on the Serengeti, but we're living our lives today where it's just constant. So what ends up happening is your adrenals are part of like all these other systems, and it creates something called metabolic chaos in your body. So that's essentially what is happening, why it's a big deal right now, and why so many women are suffering from things like brain fog, quality of sleep and mood, issues with memory, thyroid functions, low libido. So you've got, your sex, your stress, and your adrenal hormones are off. Digestion is off. You've got weight and fat distribution issues. You've got blood sugar regulation, a ton of inflammation, bone turnover, muscle integrity. It's literally like this. It's almost like a nuclear reaction at a cellular level, and it creates all of this inflammation in your body, and inflammation is the source of all disease. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what's happening when we are, living this really modern lifestyle.
What are the first few things that you actually get your clients to do when they come to you telling you that they want to change this?
So one of the first things that I do is I have them take an adrenal stress level test. And this is a quick test. It's online. You don't have to go to a doctor. You don't have to spend hundreds of dollars. You don't have to, take time to go to the doctor. And it helps me understand what phase of adrenal dysfunction you're in. And there's 4 phases. The first phase is where we just want to live all the time, and that's thriving. A lot of people aren't there. I would say like maybe 10% of the population is thriving, if that. And then you've got the stressed phase. The next phase is, I call it tired and wired. And then that third phase is completely crashed. And it's exactly what it sounds like. And the important thing to understand is that depending on where you're at in adrenal dysfunction, I would work with somebody around nutrition and supplementation and exercising in a crashed phase very differently than I would with somebody that is maybe in a stressed phase. And so that the first thing that I want to do is like, I want to place like, where are you at? And I think a big frustrating thing is that a lot of times we don't feel well. And especially as women, we'll go to a doctor, they run a couple of labs and they say everything's in range. If I had a dollar for every single time me or one of my clients said, oh, I got labs done and my regular doctor said everything's in range, I would literally be I would be giving Bezos a run for his money. And so there's a lot of like doctors just don't necessarily understand a lot of this stuff. It's not how they were trained in medical school. And in the United States, if you have an emergency injury, it's an amazing place to be. But when we start looking at like overall preventative things, it's one of the most unhealthy countries to be. So for me, it's just wanting to understand like what's going on, where are you at, so that we can do some very tailored, specific things around delicious food, around moving your body, around smart supplementation. And then after that, I would say the single most important thing that you can do if you are in any stage of adrenal dysfunction is to get 20 to 30 grams of protein within 30 to 45 minutes of waking up. So regardless of any, like before I have you do anything in my program, before I ask you for your precious time, I give you a system that in 15 minutes, you'll be able to nail your breakfasts for the entire week. And it's a breakfast that's formulated to start healing your adrenals. I use macronutrients, your proteins, fats, and your carbs in order to help to impact cortisol levels. So I would say those are the two. Step one is like, where are you at? Step two is you have to eat breakfast. And here's the sick thing about adrenal dysfunction. There's this like cycle that happens. And part of the cycle is that your appetite changes. So a lot of the women that I work with aren't hungry until like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's actually creating even more cortisol in your system. So those are the two things that I do like right away.
I'm sitting here evaluating my own breakfast and my own routine. I have stopped taking breakfast for quite a while now. At most, like a banana or something.
Are you intermittent fasting?
Not consciously, but yeah. I mean, I work out in the morning, I meditate, and then by the time it's like, oh, it's really lunchtime, you know. So
Yeah.
it's just,
So, and well, that's also another thing. When it comes to biohacking, intermittent fasting, a lot of these things, they're actually created for men. The biohacking industry is like really created by men for men for the most part. And
mm.
so, I was just talking to one of my clients. She's the CEO of a digital agency. She was working with a health and wellness practitioner. And this person was telling her no carbs and also telling her that she needs to do intermittent fasting. And those are two of the worst things that you can do if you have adrenal dysfunction.
All right. Okay. I think we need to. This is definitely news for me. I've definitely heard that. We know that a lot of the information out there, whether it's related to health, to your fitness, everything, it's meant. A lot of it's meant for guys,
Yeah.
and our like bodies as for women, it's just so different. And I've read that, and I know that we do need to consume differently from the guys, work out differently from the guys. So that's like a whole different topic that I would love to dive into, but unfortunately, we don't have the time. Maybe I have you
Yeah.
on like for another episode because I think that's super interesting.
Yeah.
We've never talked about this, but what I'm interested to know as we wrap up this episode would be, what's your own personal routine around mindset, health, and business? Like, what do you do on a regular basis to work on your mindset, to work on your own health, and also to work on your own business?
Yeah. Well, so in my program, I have something called the My Identity Perfect Morning Method. And I think that the biggest mistake that we make is we're constantly trying to figure out what do we need to do in order to have all these things in our lives. And that's really putting the cart in front of the horse. So a lot of people will say, well, what's your morning routine? And I will give them my morning routine, but then they're not able to do it. And so I think it's really important to take a step back, and it's, who do you need to be in order to do the things that you need to do in your life so that you can have the things that you want to have in your life. So I could give you all of the things, my perfect morning, and you may or may not be able to execute on it unless you start with identity, who you are being at a conscious and subconscious level. So I always start with, okay, well, what are all the things that you want to have? Okay, well, what do you need to do in order to do those things? Now take a step back, and who do you need to be in order to do all those things? Well, maybe I need to be consistent. Maybe I need to be loving. Maybe I need to be dedicated. Maybe I need to be, all of those things. It's the being that enables the doing. So I always start my morning routine thinking, and just my life in general, like who am I trying to be right now? My morning routines are super, super simple. I don't wake up with an alarm clock. I protect my mornings. Sleep is something that's very important to me. And my morning method actually starts the night before, where I'm getting at least 8 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. And then it's typically first thing in the morning, I'll go to the bathroom, chug a bunch of water, get back into bed, take my supplements. And then I will typically do a 5 to 15-minute meditation in the morning. And my smoothies are made I usually do them in like 3 to 5 day chunks. And then I grab a smoothie as I'm like getting ready in the morning, showering, if I'm on calls, So my morning routine is really simple, and I think keeping it simple makes it more achievable.
What about your routine when it comes to your business? Like, what are you doing on a regular basis to continue to get better, you know, at your business?
Oh, that's a tough one. I I I think that it would be very easy for me to come on and say that like things aren't super easy all the time, and I have everything figured out, and that's just not the case. And so the very first thing that I want to say is that like sometimes entrepreneurship is hard. There's a lot of ups and downs. Like sometimes I'm like yes, and then I'm like no, yes, and so there's that up and down. I think the thing that is most important is just cutting yourself a little bit of slack. I think that we tend to be so incredibly hard on ourselves, and it's okay to have highs and lows as you're going through and figuring all of this stuff out. And I think there's a big shift for me, which is what I'm doing for my business is taking care of myself first. I fill my cup first, and the world gets what runs over my cup. And I think a lot of times people try to compartmentalize. Well, what are you doing for business? Then what are you doing for wellness? And it's like, full stop. Your body is your vessel that you're sailing through life on. You only get one. And so the thing that I'm doing most consistently for my business is taking care of my body first, taking care of myself first, so that I can take care of my clients, take care of my husband, take care of my family. If I am not in a place where I'm firing on all cylinders emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, right? Then I can't be of service to anybody else. So, first and foremost, making that massive switch, which is like, no, I don't get to burn the candles at both ends. No, I don't get to, work until 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing those kinds of things to take care of my body, first. And then just like giving myself a little bit of slack around, sometimes things are going well, sometimes things are challenging. And then, I think the business is supposed to be easy, right? You build a list and then sell them things that they want. And I think that if so focusing on like lead generation is really important in any business.
I love this. This is a great way to end off this episode, Maya. For my listeners who want to learn more about you, possibly work with you, how can they find you? Where can they find you?
Yeah. Well, they can go to majamiller.com. It's MAJAMILLER.com. And if they want to apply for the Inside Out protocol, it's insideoutprotocol.com. And there's, they can find me on all platforms. So I'm all over the place. And what I really care about in life is that women are safe, seen, and heard, and you can't, so that you can execute on like your divine purpose on this world. Like I believe that like you and I like have a reason for being here, and so you can't do that if you feel like crap and hate the way that you look in the mirror. So, if there's anybody that wants to reach out, I love talking to people and would love to connect. So.
I love the purpose behind your business. I think that's beautiful. And I think more women should rise up to the level that they can be their potential. So, guys, I want to thank you so much for spending time with me and Maya today. Don't forget, you can find the show notes, the links, the resources, everything that we talked about on our homepage at mindfuelcommunity.com. So, Maya, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much.